Dr. Homebrew is brought to you by 5 Star Chemicals, providing safety and cleaning supplies for brewing, distilling, and winemaking at 5starchemicals.com.
Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
The return of Dr. Homebrew. We're back again. Thank you for tuning in to this interesting show that we're about to do for you. It's going to be a good one, folks. But before we get to it, we want to thank 5 Star Chemicals. Go to 5starchemicals.com and learn about everything you can do to improve your brewing. Which is obviously using their products, but using them in the right ways. Cleaning and then sanitizing, keeping up on all that kind of stuff, making sure you break down your equipment over time. They have all the information over there for you. If your local homebrew shop doesn't carry 5 Star Chemicals, do me a favor and do yourself a favor and do the homebrew shop a favor and do all of their customers a favor and ask, nay, demand that you get 5 Star. Brian, what are you doing?
I'm just trying to remember
stuff.
My notes of the what with this, because I know you guys are going to ask me some questions.
Okay.
I decided to submit a beer to Dr. Homebrew.
Yes, well, that's what we're doing. So, like, I'm sitting here watching you write. I'm like, what could he possibly? Because I need to be apparently thinking of more things at a time than just one. So sorry about that.
I just grabbed the beer as I was running out the door.
Yeah,
and my notes are insufficient as it is, but I was trying to recreate them.
Yeah, did it work?
No, it's somewhat.
Enough. It's fine. So what we're doing here today, folks, is we have no guests but the 3 people in the studio right now, which, of course, is myself and Brian and Keith.
It's just us.
And instead of me submitting my beers a couple times and crying about my score sheets, which I really want to do, but I did enough on the session a couple weeks ago, so I think I got it out of my system. Today we are going to judge their beers, and I am judging. So I did the full score sheets. Like, I did pretty good. Like, that's, it's okay.
You filled out some sheets.
It's okay. It's not great.
Good job, JP.
And I gave him a score, and we talked about him like big boys, and it was cool. So I think the first beer we'll probably just do an order of the barley wine, and then we have a sour beer. I
just poured all the rest of that barley wine at the bar.
It's good.
Oh, man.
I still have some for myself. So.
Yeah, me too. You don't have any more?
No, I don't.
Oh, man. Well, that's all right. It's fine.
I'll remember
we're
it.
Professionals, yeah. So I think this will be pretty cool. I think it'll be a good show. It's always good to
that was professional. Sorry, just dropping things on the
I think it'll be a good show.
Yeah. Well, it was great that Keith did it, and then it was better that Brian did it again.
Yeah.
So you can only... All right. Okay. All right. We all understand right now.
Justin's going to hate us.
Sorry. He doesn't listen to the show.
You can take it all out in post-processing, right?
It's fine. It's okay. Before we get into that, though, I do want to tell you guys about the Brew Guru. Go to homebrewersociation.org and check out the Brew Guru. It's an app that you can tie in with your Zymergy subscription or not. That's the cool thing about it. And it will save you money, but only if you tie it into your Zymergy subscription. And you can figure out what bars and pubs in your area or in any area you happen to be in will offer discounts for being an AHA member. And there's a lot more than you think. Yeah,
it surprises me sometimes. I'm like, oh, these guys are in it. All right, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So check that out. It's the Brew Guru app. It's available on all the app stores and all that kind of stuff. iPhone and Android and all the
Not
all
to
the
be
jobs.
confused with the Mike Myers movie, The Love Guru.
No, that's a great movie. This is a great app.
It's underrated.
But it's don't even get me started on the Love Guru. The Love Guru is great. Okay, so let's do me a favor. Let's start with Keith's barley wine.
Okay.
Keith, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, Keith, how long have you been brewing?
Yeah, how long have you been a home brewer?
Couple days.
Oh, okay. And you've already done a barley wine, fermented and conditioned.
Fresh barley wine.
You know, you can bring some really hot takes to the homebrewing scene if you can crank a beer out in under 2 days.
A barley wine, no less.
Right. I think you did great. No, just do tell me a little bit about this beer. What, how old is it, and all that kind of stuff. Why'd you make it? Why'd you make it in the summertime? Who makes a barley wine right now, by the way?
He lives in San Francisco.
Yeah. It's a whole different
I made
universe out
it,
there.
I think, I guess a little over 6 weeks ago. I was making it. I made it like 6 days before my son was born. So the goal there was to brew it and then put it in bottles, and then open a bottle every year until he's 21. But somehow I only managed to bottle like 15 bottles. So I'm not really sure what's it's not going to last that long anyway. But maybe we'll skip a couple years. Maybe we won't be around. We won't be around. We'll be out of town or something. Who knows? But the goal really is to open a bottle every year just to see how the beer's maturing and how my son is maturing. Who has more oxidation? Who
right. Who's lost some bitterness
More
over the
foul
years.
aromas.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and if he's maturing too much, you could just open it at 15 with him. I mean, it's really...
who knows what the laws are going to be by the time,
That's
Right.
true.
Right.
Geez, like what's going to happen in the world by then? So
That's true, man. That is true.
That's why I made it then, and it's a pretty much. We'll talk about the recipe, I guess, after the fact. But that's
okay.
That's pretty much why I've been doing a similar beer for, I don't know, 18 years, 17 years, something like that. But
okay.
Slight modifications every year, and this one's a little bit different, just newer hops. But yeah.
Excellent.
Cool.
All right, Brian, why don't you go ahead and start us off with you and me judging beer. And the beauty is, it's still 2 BJCP certified, at least certified judges.
We made it, yes.
Yeah.
We passed the test. So the aroma, it's richly malty. It has a light caramel and bready character to it, and a low toast behind that. I didn't get any big oxidative characters like e.g. kind of sherry-like notes in there. It was just mostly just clean malt and smelled pretty fresh. The hops are medium and citrusy with some tropical and pine in there. A little more pine as it warmed up. I got moderately fruity esters-wise. Didn't get any DMS or diacetyl, but there's some definite alcohol there making its presence known. Not sharp, though. It's a pretty smooth alcohol. I liked that. Appearance-wise, it's a medium reddish amber color. I thought the clarity appeared excellent. It kind of has that thick fishbowl kind of look to it that you get with some of those stronger beers.
What do you mean by that?
Like looking through a fishbowl, thick glasses, kind of. It's more viscous, so that the light refracts differently through it.
Okay.
Low light tan head that fades fairly quickly. Some legs were evident, not too heavy there, but mostly for kind of fine bubbles ringing the glass. Doesn't need a big head, so I actually gave it a full. It looked like a barley wine. I gave it a full compliment for appearance there. Flavor-wise, I liked the aroma a little more than the flavor. The flavor was also good. It was a pleasant, rich malt character up front, very bready with some caramel. I thought maybe it was slightly, just 1 to 2 dimensional. It wasn't like a super complex on the malt front, but it's just big, heavy malt presence, and fairly sweet. There's some smooth alcohol flavor. It's not biting, but also some a medium piney hop flavor, but not overly intense. And the hops are fresh tasting. The kind of odd thing I got in there was like very light in the finish. I got a little bit kind of a pine sol-y, solventy character, but not really sharp. And it was just kind of fleeting. And I wonder if it was something maybe from the some piney hops or some interesting hop choices there, or if it was actually getting solventy. But I felt like the alcohol itself was pretty smooth and clean. I wasn't getting a lot of higher alcohols or alcoholic, but just a little solventiness to it from something that's in there. And then, that might be something that fades over time, but right now that's what I'm getting. So, yeah, it's a clean ale, definitely cleanly brewed. The balance is even, I would say, between the hops and the malt. It's got a substantial amount of bitterness left in it. There's a pretty solid hop presence, but it's not blowing away the malt. There's a lot of malt there, too, even though it could be more complex. But they're both kind of neck and neck there to me. Mouthfeel-wise, full-bodied with medium-low carbonation. I thought it had a smooth, obvious, medium-high warmth. Not very creamy or smooth, but it still, just felt full. It felt like a good barley wine. There was no obvious astringency. So, the carbonation being lower is appropriate, and it was pretty good for the body there. Overall, I thought it was a very pleasant drinking barley wine. It tastes young, but the hop flavor is already a bit lower. So I'm wondering, upon aging, and as Keith said, he's intending on aging it, it may become a little too malty. But I think the body should stand up, though. It should have that it's very full bodied, which is going to help it out in life. And light, the light solvent was just a little distracting. It wasn't a really big element there. It was a very light impression of that. And it might be something from the hops. But I thought it was a very good beer. I gave it a 37, and I wrote at the bottom of the score sheet to keep trying.
You'll get it.
I think that came from you, though.
That's true.
Please submit more beers.
Okay, here it is. Here I go. The aroma, again, citrusy, resinous, and the aroma a little bit alcoholic. Slight sweet bready malt, low fruit esters, which I thought were very good. I agree the aroma in this beer was very, very good. I really did enjoy it. Like a medium amber deal in color, low tan head, blah, blah, blah. For the flavor, I put a deep, rich malt sweetness with a firm hop bitterness, rounded out. The hop flavor is fairly high. But I did find that the malt flavor was sort of monochromatic in a way where it's 2-row or whatever, the base malt's there. There's a little bit of kind of caramel, but it was kind of just I don't know. The aroma was very inviting, and the flavor of the malt was kind of just there hanging out. It was kind of just a wallflower, and I wanted malt. a little bit more flavor profile out of it. Yeah, something a little more toasty or interesting in there mixed with the existing. Yeah. Mouthfeel, we talked about that. Overall impressions, like I said, the malt could use a little more depth of flavor. No flaws, well brewed. Keep it up. Put a winky smiley face. So I gave it a 40. I originally gave it a 37. But then I was like, God, is that too low? I don't know. So I gave it a 40, and really the points came back in the flavor, because that the hop flavor is great, and I think it plays with the malt really well. It just is lacking a little bit of oomph. And now I'm drinking it, and I get like a orange rind. Like the spritz orange oil. I got the orange as well after having after Brian's sour beer. I got the same orange. I didn't taste it at all until I tried the sour beer. Then I'm like, wow, I get this orangey thing, and there are Amarillo hops. It's like drinking orange glow or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of orange There's Amarillo in there, which is definitely there's Amarillo, Centennial, and Mosaic, but I think Amarillo would be one of the ones that would jump out at you as being especially orangey. Although I think any of those three could probably give you at least a little bit of that citrus. But I had the exact same thing. I had the sour beer and came back. I'm like, wow, is that orangey? That is just weird. Yeah. You said that now, and I'm like, oh, that's really strange. So Amarillo, Mosaic, Centennial. Yeah, that's the orange combo. The AMC hops. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, or Mac hops. No, American Music Club hops. Yes, the Markite Soul. Cam hops. Let's talk about your recipe a little bit here, man. I mean, so the grain bill is not super non-complex. I think one of the things I find in this beer is that if I add more malt, different types of malt, the older it gets, the more, I don't know, more muddled or whatever it gets. I think having some oxidation, just having some age, actually creates more of the complexity that you would find that you'd want from the malt. Yeah. And right now, we're really, it's what do they say, 5 or 6 weeks old, and it's kind of like there's a lot of balancing act there. Like, when do you want to serve it? When do you, and I could have.
added a lot more bittering hops. Maybe I should have done that, or I could have. I didn't even dry hop this one, so I'm like, well, it's going to go a long time before I drink it, mostly for a year, and I really, I don't give a damn about competitions for this beer anyway.
Right.
So, but anyway, so it's like it's a combination. It's a mix of 2-row and a little bit of Great Western Pale Ale malt as well. So it's not quite. It's pretty much 2 to 1, 2-row to Great Western Pale, and then there's like for a 10-gallon batch, half a pound of aromatic, half a pound of Victory, a pound of Crystal 7080, English 7080, and then a pound of biscuit. So there are some specialty malts there, and I think that's probably about as much as you'd want to go for a barley wine.
Yeah, it's kind of like along the Sierra Nevada lines where they use a pretty clean malt as the background, and it's it's a little caramel and some base malt.
And I've used strictly pale ale malt for the base before, and it'd probably be a little bit better doing that. I was just sort of cleaning out the closet a little bit. I knew it wasn't going to be brewing again for a month or two, or 2 months. So I was like, let me just finish off some of these base malts that I have, and maybe I should have thrown some Munich to make up for it, make it a little bit toastier. One of the weird things about this beer, and for a lot of the stronger beers I do, is that it's boiled for 205 minutes.
Wow.
So it's a really long boil on this, and the OG was 1.113. Final gravity was like 10.028. 1056, yeast. So
you're getting towards 11% there.
Yeah, I think it was like 11. I think maybe it was 11.4 or something along those lines.
Why 205 minutes?
I was taking gravity readings probably.
Oh, okay.
Or I was doing something else, and I'm like came back. I'm like, give me. I want to finish up cleaning a conical or doing something that I wanted to finish doing before I did it, but. I was probably taking readings. I was probably normally I'd go for like 3 hours is what I would probably go for a beer like this. And I don't know for some reason I'm like let me just get a little more caramelization. And I didn't like what the gravity was. I think this one I was trying to make a little more beer. And there was like a hop back and hop stands and stuff like that. So there's a fair amount of hops in it. But I was trying to make a little more beer because I knew I wanted to bottle some and I wanted to have some in kegs as well, so I could bring it out now, but at the same time have enough stored away where I could have a bottle for 15 years or whatever.
So when you do that long of a boil, when do you add your first hop? Usually, or what did you do with this one?
With 90 minutes left, and for this, I was using hop shot, like those hop shot sort of things, like hop extract for the bittering.
All the lupulins without the plant matter.
Yeah, and I'm trying to limit the plant matter again because the wort is so. In some ways, it's so expensive, all that much malt in it and stuff like that. I want to limit how much I actually lose. In some ways too, so that's kind of what I was doing.
Interesting.
With that.
So instead of just having all the beer left in the plant matter, you can use the extract and kind of negate some of that and gain a little bit more yield.
A little more, yield. From
that. Huh? Interesting.
That's pretty much normal mash. Nothing special. Probably 50, 60 minutes at 152. The mash pH was 5.38. I did a mash out, normal sparge. Nothing really fancy other than just sort of the long boil was pretty much the most unique thing in the beer.
Okay.
Right on.
Excellent.
It's fun. I've been doing these sort of beers for a long, similar malt bills for a long, long time. Changed out the hops the last couple of years. I used to do strictly just the old C hops just started throwing in some, Mosaic or Amarillo just to change it up a little bit.
Sure.
But, like dry hopping, I could have done it. It would have been an extra couple of days and just, maybe introducing oxygen when I didn't want to. So I was like, I'll take it easy on this one, and I know I'm going to bottle it, and it's going to last a long time. So
you're trying to limit oxidation as much as you can to avoid too much sherry light.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's gonna by the time in bottles anyway, will you even know that it was dry hopped or not? It's one of those things.
Right. Why waste the hops?
You would have known it today. Probably you would have been like, sorry, just kick that over. You would have known it today, like, oh wow, the nose is really jumping out of the glass. But I think there's enough hops in it at this point in time anyway.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
if you're brewing it to be drank fresh, in other words, you would probably add some late hops and more late hops and or dry hops to bring
there's
that
a
out.
fair amount of late hops anyway. There's a hop stand for a 10-gallon batch of almost 10 ounces of hops in the hop stand.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's another 5 ounces in a hop back. So there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
I just didn't dry hop it as well on top of it.
So for a 10-gallon batch, how much are you losing over a 3-hour boil?
Well, it's kind of weird too. I kind of started off probably a little bit more in the kettle than I normally would. Mm-hmm. So normally I'd start off with a 10-gallon, 10-gallon bag. Those numbers are always kind of weird. It's like 10 gallon of finished beer,
right?
And you kind of start off with 15 gallons in a boil or whatever, and try to boil pretty hard with a beer like this. This may have been like 15 and a half.
Okay.
And I may even, I don't have great notes on this, and I may even at some point in this one collected a little extra wort and had it on a separate burner boiling as well, and then dump that in. I don't think I did that on this. I think I just added a little more in the kettle. I think it was a 20-gallon kettle. Maybe I put like 16 or 17 gallons and boiled down that way.
Okay, so normally you would, or it's a good strategy, I guess, to just take some from the mash tun, like some extra runnings, and keep it aside. So then if you're getting too low, you can just add it.
Yeah, you can. It's all about a matter of gravity, too, what you want to hit in terms of your gravity numbers. What's more important, having more volume or hitting your gravity numbers? And you can always, add sugar or malt extract if you want to bump up the numbers and keep more gravity. In this case, like I said, I was looking for a specific number of bottles and also having a full keg. So I was trying to add a little more. I made it a little bit bigger intentionally, add a little more grain to start off with a big mash tun than I normally would. So I was more worried about how much volume I'd get. Normally I'd be like, I don't care about volume so much. But yeah.
Did you do anything special with your water, or just use the straight filtered Hetchy, or what did you do there?
Yeah, no, I have a picture of my book here, which also, by the way, I have my recipe book was in a cooler with barley wine, and then
so it has barley wine spills on it.
No. Like the whole bottle opened up on the way home in an Uber the other night, and then the whole book's just soaked right now with barley wine. And so I ordered a new book, but I can barely see what I did. But there was definitely some gypsum and some calcium chloride. Yeah. I would guess it's maybe like 60 ppm
calcium.
Probably a little other way around. Probably a little bit. The calcium chloride. I'm sorry. The
sulfate.
Sulfate is probably a little bit higher than than the chloride. So it's probably about 50 ppm calcium. Probably like 60 sulfate and 40 chloride, somewhere around that range, just to essentially make the bitterness a little bit more. It's going to be a beer for aging anyway, and it's probably not going to have a huge impact. But yeah, the water has been treated, and I was kind of using like a pale ale, sort of what I would normally do for a pale ale, sort of water treatment.
Cool. And may I ask, how are the wind conditions in San Francisco on the day?
That day, I think I brewed fairly early in the day. If I brew late in the day, on certain times of the year, after like 4 o'clock, the winds are like insane. But yeah, so it was.
We had a batch of beer that we brewed. It was. Yeah.
We didn't hit our gravity really well at all because the wind was just a constant battle.
Boil up and then go down. Boil up.
Oh, just because
the balancing act became insane
because the wind was blowing out the.
Not blowing out the burner, but just blowing on the top, on the foam coming up, and then it would stop, and then it would...
Yeah, and the burner would kind of go to the side.
There would be a little bit of the shifting flame.
And we were drinking, too, so...
Okay, yeah.
Blame me for that.
Right.
He's got some good beer over there. Nice beer, though. Thank you for sharing that, Keith.
Yeah, for sure.
No, thanks for tasting it.
So how did well, here, we'll do a wrap-up of how Jason did at the break after the second beer, right? Because I'm curious to see how Jason did.
How Jason did?
Yeah. On his on my score sheet.
Oh yeah,
me referring to myself in the third person.
How did Jason do on his score sheet?
Yeah. Anyway, it's Dr. Homebrew. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to drink some of Brian's beer.
Huh.
So don't miss that. Anyway,
okay, Jason.
We'll be right back.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Cans.
Since the first time the Brewing Network microphones turned on, more beer was behind it. More Beer sponsors the programming on the BN because, like you, they love brewing. And like the Brewing Network, they love sharing their knowledge. Morebeer.com isn't just a website to place your next equipment or ingredient order. Morebeer.com also gives you access to free beer information that will make you a better brewer. Go to morebeer.com and click into the Learning Center. You'll find podcasts, technical facts, video tutorials, and more, including access to The Buzz, More Beer's social network of more than 5,000 members. And some of them might even be crazier about beer than you are. Get over to morebeer.com today and take advantage of The Buzz, the forum, the Learning Center, and make sure you're signed up to receive the newest More Beer catalog. More Beer, bringing you absolutely everything for beer making. Now, back to the examination.
Hey, thanks for sticking with us, everybody.
Yeah.
Before we get to Brian's beer, I do want to tell you guys that the Homebrew Label Awards is up and running. It's back. It started, I think, a couple years ago. Sponsored by, of course, the Brewing Network and the fine folks at Grog Tag. So you can go to homebrewlabelawards.com and upload your label. It doesn't have to be, something that you had professionally done, or doesn't have to be something you got, from Grog Tag or whatever. Draw your own label, upload that thing, and then once you do, have your people vote. So put it on your social media account and have your friends and family vote. They can only vote once. But the winner will be crowned from a tally of votes. So it's very much a crowdfunding thing. And then they're also doing a worst label contest at the same time. So if you have a label that you know is terrible, enter it, because it could win the worst label in the Homebrew Label Awards contest, man. So check them out. They have last year they had over $5,000 in prizes to give away, and this year they're working on that as well. So check them out, homebrewlabelawards.com. And good luck with the whole thing, man. Okay, here we go. Brian,
yes.
Got your beer, dude. Got your beer. We had to figure it out. I put some kind of sour deal.
I entered it as a red sour with lacto, PDO, Brett, and acetobacter.
Okay.
So that's what I told Keith anyway. He's the one that knows what he's doing. No offense, JP.
No, none taken.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Anyone's ever said to me.
It's for me not to take offense. No. Keith, why don't you go ahead and start with Brian's some kind of sour deal beer?
Okay, after Brian gave me that compliment, I'm going to knock his beer down. Okay, so on the nose, I'm getting probably a lot of pickles and vinegar combo going on. Not just strictly vinegar, but I'm getting this pickle, and I'm not sure if it's quite dill, but
there's a pickle in your beer.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. It was weird. So there's a medium malt character. I got some breadiness, light caramel, notes of apples and vanilla. No hops. I'm getting a light alcohol in the nose as well. No diacetyl, no phenols. Not much funk, so I'm not really picking up. I'm looking for some funk here, little horsiness or possibly leatheriness from the Brett. Not getting much of that, just mostly vinegary or acetic sort of character. Getting a little bit of acetone and light solvent notes as well. It's copper in color, maybe deeper. Now I'm looking at it again. I'd say it's deeper than copper. Almost ranging light brown. I don't know.
Reddish light brown.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. I don't know why I said copper before. It's probably closer to red than copper. And red is darker than copper, right?
Sure.
Good.
Why not?
I think of red as kind of a hue, because some beers can be more yellowy and gold hued, and others are more on the red.
Maybe it's a little rusty in color.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, slightly off-white head that doesn't really last very long, but brilliant clarity. Head retention is not necessarily that important in this beer. I did give it a 3 out of 3 just because there's notes of lactobacillus or Brettanomyces affecting head retention. Probably more the former than the latter, actually. Flavor-wise, I got a big sour flavor. Drinking it, I get sort of burning, biting character. Drinking it, and the finish. I didn't get this in the nose at all, but I'm getting that THP. That's tetrahydropyridine character. That's the the unbuttered popcorn is what it tastes like most to me. I know I've also heard Cheerios. Not over the top. Not, like I said, not even picking it up at all in the aroma, but it is in the finish. I find that in a lot of sour beers. So I could have a low, a high threshold. Sorry. I haven't had anything to drink today. But like I said, it is subtle. The funk is kind of subdued. Looking for something contributing from the PDO or Brett. Not getting much of that. Mostly just getting a lot of lacto, more actually aceto than lacto, honestly. Very low bitterness, no hop flavors. Getting some wine notes, some vinous character. And also, as I mentioned in the nose, some breadiness, some light caramel, and just esters of apple, I would say. Other thing I mentioned in the aroma I'm getting in the flavor as well is a little acetone. Mouthfeel, medium low. It's appropriate for style. Medium low carbonation. Like to see a little more carbonation. Medium warming. This is just a lot of mediums, I guess. No astringency. As I mentioned, I see more carbonation. Overall impression, I didn't dislike the beer. The pickle aroma was a little odd, and I'm never a huge fan of THP. I've heard it's going to age out, like if you let it sit around. And, as we talked about, I think on the show before, it's not necessarily something that people know if it'll age out at a certain temperature or not, or in the bottle or keg or fermenter or whatever storage device. I think there's probably some research to be done there and finding that out. Maybe the Brewlosophy people can spend 3 years making a sour beer and then do some tests on that. Aging
the Cheerio beers.
They would do it.
But otherwise,
we dry Cheerio'd this beer.
I mean, like I said, those are the biggest faults. Was the the vinegar, slightly pickly character, and and I'm struggling to say what exactly is it. Dill is reminding me of pickle. I mean, that's what I would think normally, but there are some other herbs that you can use when pickling things as well.
Right. Well, there's some sweet components that go into making the pickles, and the funk could be kind of a gnarly garlicky thing or something. It could give you an impression of that, but it's mostly just probably the acetic acid.
Character, So I think, to me, I also said it seems mostly acetic driven, bitter, borderline of being too much acetic, biting, burning. Would like to see a little more malt, possibly somehow. I don't know, somehow stop the fermentation or stop the acetic earlier. Is there too much oxygen? I don't know. I have no idea what in process. I'm not going to.
You don't want to know
what the process was, but I would look at can you introduce some of the other components? Maybe get a little more of those, a little more of the Brett, especially would be kind of a nice little balance to that, and somehow get it before it goes too acetic. Overall, I gave it a 30.
You're too kind.
I feel like I may have been too kind. I
feel that about myself.
But you are in the room, and we respect you as a judge. So no, I'm just kidding. I didn't. I think I gave it a 29 initially and bumped it up to a 30. So I think I was somewhere in that range of where I enjoy it in some ways, and in other ways I find it to be a bit challenging of a beer to drink.
Very polite. Okay. Here's my go around. The aroma, there's tart, definitely acetobacter vinegar kind of a thing happening. It's not super offensive, which I found interesting for me. At first, when I smelled it, I was like, "Oh, that can't be good." And then I was like, "Well, it's not bad, really. It's not. It doesn't put me off it. It's almost like like a Flanders red kind of a thing, which I'm not a big fan of because of the acetobacter vinegar thing can be kind of strong, but in low doses it can be pretty good. Little toasty in there, some caramel, some dark fruit aromas. The appearance was cool. The kind of a light brown with ruby highlights kind of a thing. No head really to speak of. In flavor, it was interesting. I got like a first taste was a tart green apple skin. Like I used to peel green apples and eat the skin, and that kind of reminded me of that. Sort of like a bitter, harsh, not really an astringency, but there's some harshness there that I couldn't figure out. And then in the flavor, I got kind of an oxidized apple meat or like dehydrated apple ring, and I think that's just those dark malts. I don't know. It's not wasn't super appealing in that regard. There's a high acid in there, which fits the style, of course. Toasty, kind of almost a burnt deal, almost burnt. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but like a toasty malt thing. Slight bitter aspirin kind of a deal at the back of my throat afterwards in a finish, which I know isn't necessarily what you want in a beer.
Maybe I do, JP.
Maybe you do. Maybe you're into that health thing. I don't know about you. Overall, I put this beer, it feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be. Is it a red ale or is it a sour beer? It has notes of both, which makes sense because it looks like a sour red ale and acts like a sour red ale, but I don't know, I feel like the malts didn't really play very well with the bugs that you were using. I gave it a 28. I actually gave it a 27, and then I went up one.
Okay.
So there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think now that I'm smelling it more, maybe the pickle sort of the pickle mixture is sort of a some of that funk mixing with the vinegar character. But it's funny how it comes across as being very pickly.
A punch bowl impression gives you that pickliness.
So tell us about this beer.
That's interesting. Well, I talked about some of my weird habits on a previous show a long time ago, but I like to save beers. And, like Keith, when he has a bad beer, he just throws it away. Well, about 9 years ago or so, I had a beer that came out horribly phenolic, and you just couldn't drink it.
Oh, man.
And so I just said, what the hell, I'm just going to sour it and see what happens. So that was the first thing that lived in my closet.
Okay.
Now there are like 7 or 8 things that live in my closet.
Okay.
And I blend them.
Are all of them beer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
All right. Just checking.
Mostly.
2 children.
Right.
Every once in a while, like the there'll be a little wine that lands in there. Even.
Okay.
But it's like, I don't like to waste beer. If there's a hydrometer sample,
right,
it goes in one of the. It
goes in the thing. Okay,
one of the things. If I get a leftover Dr. Homebrew beer that I've judged at home, and I took this much of it, I dump it in the thing. So some of you that entered previously, your beer is in this.
Oh, cool.
But it's developed into a bunch of different carboys, and I'll just talk briefly about each one. I can't tell you what went into it. You couldn't recreate this if you wanted to. But it's just a weird beer that I make, and I blend for fun and just see if I can get something better than the whole of its parts. Because some of these beers on their own are just horrible.
Right.
But the beer number one is I made a Consecration Ale clone, and then I just saved the dregs of that, and I had a Scottish 80 shilling that just finished way too sweet, and the alcohol was too low and it was way too sweet. So I just transferred it onto the top of the Consecration dregs, and it's basically just the Trappist yeast with and then with Roselaire and Brett. So yeah. That beer came out okay, but it wasn't. When I tasted that one, it wasn't super sour enough, but it was coming along. So I think I might have had like one part that I just kind of taste each one individually. I'll pull them out of my closet onto my countertop and just taste them individually, and then teaspoon blend them to get to something halfway palatable.
Okay.
Beer number 2 is what I call Jack Sour, but it was basically my friend Jack Weldon was emptying a barrel that he had that was pretty good. If you've been to NCHF and some of the festivals a couple years back, he'd have some kegs of that usually, and he just did a Solaris where he just tapped top, pulled off beer, topped it off, pulled off beer, and just had it always going. But he decided to empty his barrel and offered it to some people, and I just brought a bucket into a homebrew club meeting. He transferred it there for me out of his keg that he pulled out of that barrel. So that was one that I really liked. It was a nice red sour, and he did some Scottish beers, and then he started adding some other, I think, old ales and stuff in there. But it was a really nice sour. But there's very little of Jack's original beer left in there. It's just been added to over time too, because this is like Whorehouse Tart number 8, I call it.
Okay.
It's just, and the Whorehouse Tart came from NCHF too, and they had the Wild West theme or whatever. And it was like, what's my weird sour beer going to be called? And that was one of the original ones. I'm like, let's just call it the Whorehouse Tart.
Right.
She's a funky one, whatever.
Right.
So it was popular, just because of the name, maybe. But
probably, maybe a little bit of both.
The beer number 3 is the old bad beer that I saved from about 2008, and just that really phenolic thing. And it aged out, and it became a lot less offensive, but it was still gnarly. But if I didn't put a little bit into some of my blends, it was okay. So,
Okay.
So I think I used about a couple parts of the Jack Sour and then one part of the old bad beer. And then there was one that I called the Brett beer, which isn't really that highly Brett anymore. I had added a bunch of Brett to it. It got a little bready for a while, and then I just kept adding things to it. And it's kind of an odd mix. I also just added some oak cubes into the bottom of it to give it kind of some more tannins and along with some of the funk to accent a beer in a certain way. By itself, again, not that great. Mm-hmm. So I might have added one part of that. Beer 5 is what I call Eddie's beer, and it's Dunkelweizen that he had around. It was kind of going past its prime. And I think he gave it to me about 6 months or so before I mixed it with this. It hadn't been aging that long, but I just added some dregs of good bottles to it. And I'm always doing that when I drink a sour at home. I'll just add some dregs of if I like the sour, I'll dump it into, choose which one of mine that I want to dump it into. Something that's not quite coming along as well, that needs a little amplification. I'll put that in there. So,
okay.
And beer number 6 is the weirdest one. So if you went to the second NHC San Diego, I think it was. The
one a couple years ago, yeah.
11 or 2012, I don't remember when it was. It was, yeah. So I went around in my mad scientist gear. I must have been 2015. Is that right?
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago.
2015. So yeah, the first one was 2011. The second one, I went around in my mad scientist gear and collected a little bit of everybody's beer. And
you had a flask, I remember.
I had a flask, and I asked for a little bit of your beer. So if you were at NHC 2015, your beer is probably in this too. But so I put that in just a regular fermenter bucket. And so I had better luck with better bottles and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these are just in glass because they just have extra carboys. But I put that one in a bucket because it was what I had, and it rumbled around in my car and, got plenty of oxidation on the way back from San Diego. And the thing turned into complete vinegar. The lid came open a little bit.
Okay.
And it just, yeah. It turned into like the strongest, most intense vinegar that you've ever tasted. And I give it away to people as vinegar too, actually. But a buddy was like, you have some more of that vinegar beer around? And I'm like, I want to use it from some malt vinegar for my fish and chips. I'm like, sure, buddy, here you go. I've got a full bucket of it.
You still have it. Why do you still have it?
I still have it. So I blended with the first 5 beers, and it I don't like an overly acidic beer either. And again, I don't think this is a perfect beer by any stretch of the imagination. It's not.
Right.
But if I blended the first 5, these hadn't been coming along as well. So some of the earlier iterations of this, it had soured, and I hadn't, I started figuring out what I wanted to do with them, and I blended some, and I pulled them off, and sometimes I'd pull one off for a festival, and it was popular and poured well, and then I'd make the same blend to fill a second keg and have around to pour around the house or whatever, just for fun. But yeah, this time some of the beers weren't quite sour enough, and if I didn't add just that smallest part of the vinegar beer, it didn't pop quite the same way. So without that, it wasn't quite. It wasn't sour enough to me.
So you sat and blended this beer out of those 6 guys.
So I might have gone a little overboard with that this time, and it's not very scientific. It's like, maybe 0.1 part of that, but it was just like,
sure. But sometimes
a
that's all you
dollop
need,
of the vinegar beer. I think I'd pulled some off into a container marked as vinegar to use in the kitchen. I'm like, well, that's about enough for what I need, and I tasted it, and it tasted like a sour beer. So
right.
But I poured some of it at the Livermore Craft Beer Festival, and it was fun. People it opened some people's eyes.
Okay, right.
Puckered some people's faces.
I bet.
But it's just a fun thing to do. Another fun thing I did.
Cool.
I think I told you one time is my brother and I had a blind blending, and he blended one his way, and then I blended one my way, and we both tasted each other's blends, without knowing whose it was, because I just marked them and then covered it up, mixed them around, then we tasted it, and it's like, okay, which blend should we do for the real final one that we're going to bring somewhere? And so we chose mine. But yeah, it's just kind of a fun thing I like to do, and it's just stupid and weird.
It sounds like a cool project.
Mad scientisty and dumb, but yeah,
I don't know about that, but it seems cool to just kind of stretch your palate a little bit.
You can make a 30-ish point sour beer out of it to have somewhere, and
you're doing all right.
Or 20, probably more appropriately, 28 or 27. Thank you.
Yeah, probably. All right, we're going to take a break real fast, and we're going to come back and talk about my sheets real quickly, and then we'll let you guys go. Hang on a sec. We'll be right back.
Do you know the 3 most important rules in brewing? Sanitation, sanitation, and sanitation. And no one does it better than 5-Star Chemicals. 5-Star knows sanitation. You can only sanitize clean equipment. And 5-Star knows how to clean, too. For craft brewers and home brewers, 5-Star has what you need to keep your fermenters, serving tanks, kegs, and draft lines sparkling and free of any beer-spoiling bacteria. PBW, caustic, acid cleaners, Star Sand, SaniClean, lubricants and defoamers, pH stabilizers, and more. 5-Star Chemicals has cleaning supplies, safety supplies, heat exchangers, pumps, hoses, and valves. And 5-Star is proud to offer eco-friendly products that exceed customer expectations. If you have a cleaning problem, you need the 5-Star solution. Visit 5starchemicals.com or call 800-782-7019. 800-782-7019 and get the 5-Star treatment today.
Are you a member of the White Labs Customer Club? If not, you should be. It's the easiest way to earn free stuff for turning in your old homebrew labels from either Vials or Pure Pitch. All you have to do is save your labels and redeem them for things like free yeast, an exclusive White Labs t-shirt or sweatshirt, and even the opportunity to brew with the yeast man himself, Chris White. Signing up is easy. Just go to whitelabs.com/customer club, fill out the registration form, and then mail in your labels. They will return the favor by sending you awesome White Labs swag. Go sign up today at whitelabs.com/customer club. White Labs, pure yeast and fermentation since 1995.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but we're going to have to pour you out.
Back to Dr. Homebrew.
Hey, thanks for sticking around. It means a lot. I appreciate it.
It has to be one of the weirdest shows we've done.
Yeah, but you know what? I liked it. I liked it because it was informative, and it's something we never really do. Is kind of turn that spotlight on us in that degree. I mean, I've brought my beers in as kind of like the guy who doesn't really pay attention to a lot of shit, but we've never looked at your guys' beers more than just a passing nod, like, hey, I brought in some beer, and this is what it is, and we're drinking it as we were hanging out.
Yeah, and it didn't feel that forced. It was like we actually did a real judging. I feel like you guys did a good job with my beer, and that's more than fair for it. I think you and I did a good job with Keith's beer, and
it was definitely fun.
I think that's going to age well. I think that beer is going to be nice down the road.
The only time it'll ever be judged.
So. It was made to be aged. It's not a perfect barley wine right now, but it's good for what it's going to be.
And like I said, it's probably the only time it'll ever be aged. So I was kind of excited that not judged. Yes, right. Aged. It will probably be the only time it's aged as well, but it's the only time it'll be judged. And I was kind of excited just to see. other people thought it was cool, and I thought it was good, and it's great.
Good. Yeah, I thought it was cool too, and it was cool for me, someone who's not very practiced at judging, to kind of be in the same range. And I always thought I was pretty good at picking like scores for beers, but not sitting there and explaining why and doing all the kind of stuff. That's why I don't really do the judging. I think I'd be great at like the check score sheets, even though I fucking hate them.
But when you work with a good judge, you're paired with somebody that you can be like, what is that I'm searching for? And they can be like, oh, there's some solvent in here, or there's some acetone. And it's like, that might be what the roughness that you're picking up.
Maybe.
In the mouthfeel or the finish on the sour beer or whatever, It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And something clicks and you learned something that day. So just keep judging with people.
Yeah. I think it was cool. I think we should do it again.
For sure.
Good time.
We're sipping a little bit of this, the Mad Zymergist's beer project that we started last summer, and we put it into a port barrel. It's an imperial stout that my buddy Chris came up with the recipe for, and it's a port barrel imperial stout aged in a port wine barrel. So yeah, just for like 9 months.
Wow.
At Ramon Rios and Tracy had some empty barrels and some 2-year-old port in there, and so we just filled them up with some beer, got a bunch of guys to brew, and so we just pulled it out of the barrels a little earlier in the spring. And so this is the result here. I don't know. Keith and I are tasting it.
Great. How do you like it?
Definitely some wine notes. It's kind of interesting. The vinous character. I am getting a little bit of smokiness. Maybe that's just the roast from it, but and I think it's definitely interesting. I think probably how big was the stout, Brian, that was put in it?
This is I think it's about 10% or so. Yeah, 10.5.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish there were probably still a little more residual sweetness in it. It seems a little dry right now, the way where it's coming. Maybe that's the bitterness balance, but maybe with a little bit of age. So yeah, a weird thing that I did with my cakes too is like the cakes that I pulled off of it were not very woody tasting. I couldn't taste the oak in it, and the wine barrels had pulled so much of the wood character out already that I just added a single cube of oak, and maybe I should have soaked the cubes or something first, but I just dropped a cube straight in to this one. And we also had an old ale that was likewise not oaky enough, but I think it's going too far the other way. I might need to blend it, and I think that's some of that roughness that you're getting on this one. Yeah, no, but the nose. I mean, I don't know. It's really interesting. The nose is great with the wood character. Reminds me of a cab or something along the lines of that. A
little tannic, yeah.
Yeah, a little tannic character,
yeah.
Very cool. I like bringing projects in. That's for sure. All right, we're going to get out of here, everybody. So thanks a lot for tuning in to the old Dr. Homebrew. Don't forget to head over to our sponsors, and 5 Star and Grog Tags, and all the people that you heard about on the show today. Check them out because they help us stay here doing this stuff and helping people become better judges. So I do want to start doing some more judge stuff in here. I think that'd be cool beyond just tasting listener beer, which is always fun. But I think
give us your
really
feedback. Let us know what you thought. Hey,
yeah, for sure. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot, and we'll catch you later.